this show, New Descendants, actually spawned from another show I had called The Descendants of Leisure, which was held in Duncan at our gallery, the U Gallery. And I had I'd been given a box of slides from the 60s that my grandfather had taken, and pictures of my father's family and my father and my uncles and stuff that I'd never seen before. I did not know that my grandfather was such a prolific photographer. He was a military man, so that's how we knew him. Was very strict, and he was fun, but it was always, you had to watch yourself around him because you didn't know if he was going to give you trouble or not. But so we didn't really know he had this like creative kind of side with photography. So when I got all these photographs, I was just really surprised at how well they were perfectly framed, and it seemed that he'd waited for the right moments for everything to be taken, as opposed to just snapping shots of life. It was like he was snapping shots of life, but he knew when things were framed the way that they should be, and so going through all these photographs, I was just blown away by his skill, and was also pleased that I had a bunch of material that I could take from so easily, where I didn't even really have to rearrange any of the figures or anything. I could just take them from the photographs. They were all just so perfect, and so I just started painting them. I didn't start painting with necessarily the idea of doing a show in mind until I realized that I had a series. And so I painted, I think I did about 12 big paintings in total, and these 3 are the last 3 of that series that I still have. So the other paintings from that series were actually quite a bit larger than these, and so they were a kind of a collage of some of the figures from those paintings, from those photographs, and then some live studies that I'd done in my studio, and I'd mixed some of those figures together and had some kind of reclining nudes and a lot of like bather figures, which, as I was working through the series, I kind of was relating to the bathers of Cezanne and a little bit of Picasso and reclining nudes and that of Matisse. And also working through that, I discovered, in that same time period, I discovered Richard Diebenkorn, and that's kind of where the influence of some of those newer pieces came from. As far as my medium goes, I'd been working in oil pretty consistently up to this point, and so it was just natural to work with oil. Palette wise, I just like really bright colors, I guess, trying to dumb them down a little bit, but I like when things are a little sharp, maybe a little uneasy. Yeah, and then I also had a lot of house paint kicking around that I was using as well. So some of the bigger paintings ended up being a bit of a mix of latex and oil, a lot of chalk. Yeah, I don't concern myself too much with what materials I'm using. It's just what's there. I just kind of, if I have some nice latex that has good color in it, I'll use that for parts of my background, sometimes put it in the foreground, whatever. I like using chalk because it's raw, it's rough. Yeah, so when I started developing the paintings after that series, so that series kind of ended in September of last year, 2017. And then I just had these 3 left over, so I played off of these a little bit into the next, I guess, 5 paintings that are in the hallway there, and they're all on masonite, just on hardboard, and these are all canvas. I started painting on the wood. It's just a little easier to prep. You don't necessarily need to prime the wood, and paint goes a lot further. And it's just easier to cut into different sizes, and so the new Descendants series, which is this show here at Archive, is again just taking from the Descendants of Leisure series and then adding a little bit on. And so the new Descendants are partially my father's family. They're the new descendants of immigrants who were my grandfather's family. And the new Descendants is also a few new paintings. So these paintings here are more ideas of what I imagine their life to be, where these are actually taken from photographs of their life. So there's a lot of tobacco use in these paintings, because that was something that was always happening. My grandmother smoked nonstop. I remember being 8 years old and helping her roll cigarettes. So it's just something that was stained in my memory to include. So there's some cigarettes in there. One of the paintings has just kind of like a drink glass carved into it, which is another thing. We always hung out at happy hour, and they had their scotch, or I think my grandmother drank brandy, and we got like, Clamato juice or Pepsi and pretzels or something. So it's just kind of exploring my childhood and my father's childhood and memories in that way, and just revisiting youth, I guess.